Elevate your life. How to profit from higher octaves. In a past article on resonance, I briefly mentioned the notion that fields have higher and lower ranges that we can choose to resonate with. In life, we are always presented with options, possibilities, and choices about what we want to be in harmony or accord with. You could say that each field of experience is an octave, and that the next higher or lower octave is actually a similar but slightly different field. Now we will delve into how our awareness is divided into octaves and how this allows us choice around what octaves we want to play in. First, let's just look at various octaves in life that are quite evident. We see the octave at work in the 7 colors of the rainbow, in the octaves in music, and with the 7 chakras, the 8th chakra being the first in the next octave. We see it with the 7 levels in personality traits or overleaves, with the 7 soul stages and the 7 levels of maturity in each one, and on and on. In order to understand octaves better, let's begin with some examples of personality traits that some people have. These traits may be ones you exhibit in your own personality or perhaps not. Yet even if you don't have them yourself, you have certainly seen them in action in your friends, colleagues, family members, or in famous people, so you can relate to all of them. Let's begin with the trait of dominance that some people have as a main theme in their personality. Many heads of state, prime ministers, and presidents manifest it, so it is easy to think of examples. Dominance may be played out across a considerable range of activity, like for example dominance in athletics like LeBron James in basketball, in comedy such as Jimmy Kimmel, in acting such as Cate Blanchett, dominance in music like Taylor Swift, dominance in business like Jeff Bezos of Amazon, dominance in politics such as Donald Trump, and so on. Clearly, as you can see, they don't all handle dominance similarly, and this of course has to do with their value sets, and this is related to their soul stages and levels already mentioned above. Dominance has a range that moves between dictatorship in the negative pole and leadership in the positive pole. Dictatorship is the lower vibration and does not bring joy or happiness to those subject to the decrees of the dictator. It also does not bring satisfaction to other heads of state that must deal with the dictator. Dictatorship is of course issuing commands that do not take into consideration the best interests of the people, but rather only the interests of a small few loyalists and the desire for the dictator to perpetuate their own power. Leadership is the higher vibration in this continuum and leads to greater overall best interests of the subjects and greater cooperation with other leaders. One leads to suffering and destructiveness, while the other to greater satisfaction and productivity. Let's take Soul Age as another example. There are 7 soul stages and 7 levels to each stage. Each of those 7 levels in turn is divided into 7 further levels apiece, resulting in many octaves of behavior. Therefore, there are many steps to mastery in the evolutionary advancement of a soul to ultimate awakening. The levels repeat themselves again at the next stage up. So, for example, the first level of a stage is service, and after the 7th level, the first level of the next stage is again service, but on a higher level than before. This is the way octaves work. The levels are a field, and the next octave of the levels up is a new field. So it means operating at a more sophisticated level. A young soul doing service is different from a mature soul doing service, and so on. The 7th level is a leadership level, so this is often where you find people with dominance. A 7th level toddler soul will be dominant in a more primitive way than, say, a 7th level mature soul doing dominance. That is, they are more likely to exhibit dictatorship like a drug lord than the leadership of the mature soul exhibited in social action or reform like a Martin Luther King. Observation mode is another example. One person may use their powers of observation to detect the weakness in another person to assess whether to mug them or not. Another person may use observation to detect chords that might be out of tune on a guitar or piano. Yet another person, like the psychic surgeons I have witnessed, may use their observation abilities to see cancerous growths or other toxins in someone's body, allowing rapid removal. In personality traits, it is true that higher octaves lead to higher levels of functioning, but this is not always true for other sets of octaves. You could not say the same for octaves in music. A lower octave is just as valid as a higher octave, but it will simply produce a different result in the listener. Higher notes often go along with higher inspiration, but we could not say a high note is better than a low note. The low notes have their validity too, and the music would not be the same without the contributions of varying octaves. If we are talking about the continuum from violence to peace, then the higher octaves are definitely more desirable for human beings. Yet if we are talking about the levels of intensity of an earthquake, then a higher intensity earthquake is only worse when considering damage to human life and property. Otherwise, it is just different, but not bad. So, in nature, octaves all have equal validity, but for human beings, higher octaves reflect evolution. Every system of the body has higher and lower vibratory levels, including all the organs. Let's take some examples, beginning with the endocrine system. The endocrine glands vibrate at lower or higher levels, and depending on what their vibratory levels are, the hormones they produce are either more or less physical. Now bear in mind that medical science does not agree at this time that there are higher levels of functioning or higher vibratory levels to the endocrine system. For them, there is only one hormonal output of the glands. Yet for people with special abilities, like for example psychics or people who walk on hot coals and do not get burned, there are definitely higher and lower levels to hormones. Some people see colors and textures with their eyes that others do not. These are usually artists, but some other people are clairvoyant and can see things that others do not, yet they are not psychotic by any means. They have access to higher octaves of hormones and other body chemistry than most. I myself am more clairaudient and often am given information by my allies, helping spirits, and/or higher self. These come more in the form of thoughts than audible sounds. They are simply a higher range that many other people do not hear, but I can sometimes hear for them, and can let them know what was said. I am not fundamentally different from others, but I do access a different range than most. They tell me that this became possible because for the most part I use the ability for service to others. So, this tells us that the right motivation is the key to accessing higher octaves in the body. In shamanic circles, people who start out with pure motivations and have access to higher octaves can lose them should they become corrupted by power or greed. Hopefully, this gives some insight into the nature of our physical reality. Everything is divided into octaves, and the higher octaves can be accessed with experience, knowledge, and discipline. When we evolve, we rise to higher octaves. The higher octaves are not necessarily validated by people who have not experienced them. They tend to label them as delusional or psychotic. Yet they are the key to our evolution, and eventually everyone will exhibit them sooner or later. In the coming years, many millions of people will discover access to them, and the world will change as a result. Bring it on. Arcturian Council. How to jump timelines energies. We have been instructing all of you for quite some time in the astral plane, and we have specifically been giving you guidance as to how to jump timelines. We know that you have heard of jumping timelines before, and we also know that you perhaps believed that you had to jump timelines with the entire human collective going to the new timeline with you. But that is not the case because there is a version of the human collective on every timeline. Therefore, you don't have to wait until everyone else is ready there on Earth to have an experience yourself of what you want. Even if that experience involves all other humans. An experience like peace on Earth, or an experience like a mass landing of spaceships are two examples of global events that you can have at any time. And again, that is because when you personally jump a timeline, You go to a different reality where there is already a human collective that is also vibrating at that same frequency to have that global experience with you. And so we mentioned that the energies are there to assist you and allow you to jump timelines. But we want you to know that there are an infinite number of timelines to choose from. And we also wanted to assure you that you don't have to wait for everyone else to be ready the timeline that you want to experience. Now is the time to get crystal clear about what you want to experience on your new timeline. Tell the universe and your guides. Tell your higher self, and tell them all out loud. And then match those words with your vibration. Align with your new timeline. And again, you don't have to feel bad about leaving your old timeline behind and the human collective that exists on that timeline, because you can renew, refresh, and restart that timeline as you are leaving. Your intentions are so powerful, and as you hold that intention to not abandon anyone, then that will be your experience. You will not be abandoning anyone, because another aspect of your soul will still be there on that timeline, helping, serving, doing all the things that you want to do to live a life of purpose. And so, do not feel guilty about jumping to a better timeline, because you are setting a good example to everyone else and showing them how it's done. You are adding something to the collective consciousness of all humans on all timelines that everyone will benefit from, because anyone and everyone can tap into that template. You are doing such amazing work on yourselves and doing so much for all of humanity by being awake. And you get to experience the relationships, the prosperity, the health and well-being that you want. And then you will teach others how to jump timelines, because you will have successfully done it and felt the difference on the new timeline. And as we said before, these energies that are coming in for the energies will be helping you always to jump timelines. And so, everyone will be able to benefit from these energies at some point. And you will always be able to help the entire human collective, no matter where you are. We are the 𝐂𝐨𝐷𝐿 Council, and we have enjoyed connecting with you.